Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are taking a deep dive into the world of exosomes.
Exosomes.
Yeah, they're these tiny little particles that our cells release,
Huh.
and they're causing a major buzz right now in the health and beauty industries.
Interesting. I haven't heard much about them.
Well, you're not alone. A lot of people haven't, but you've probably seen the headlines. Exosomes being touted as this miracle cure for everything.
What? Like everything.
Pretty much. Wrinkles,
Right.
Alzheimer's, you name it. So we thought, let's dig into this. We've got a ton of articles, research papers,
Oh,
even some personal stories to sort through. And the big question we're trying to answer is, are exosomes the real deal?
right.
Or is this just really clever marketing?
Yeah, I can see how that would be a question. I mean, it does sound a bit like too good to be true, maybe.
Well, that's what we're here to find out. The MIT Technology Review actually had this article. They called it a scientific gamble.
Oh, wow. A gamble, huh?
Yeah, people are spending a ton of money, even risking their health, on these treatments that, honestly, we don't fully understand.
That's a little concerning.
Yeah, and I think that's where the real issue lies.
Well, what do we know about them? I mean, what are they exactly?
Well, we know they carry these complex messages between cells,
Okay.
almost like tiny little couriers delivering instructions all over the body.
Fascinating. So what's the problem then?
Well, the problem is that we don't know exactly what those messages are or how they're going to affect different people. So it's like sending out a bunch of telegrams.
Telegrams.
Yeah. But we don't know if they're going to the right address. We don't even know if they have the right message.
Okay, now that is a problem. No wonder scientists are saying we need more research on this.
Absolutely. And here's the crazy part. These treatments are already out there.
Really?
Yeah. Widely available.
But you said we need more research.
Exactly. And regulatory agencies in the US, the UK, Japan, none of them have approved any exosome products for medical use.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it's pretty alarming. In fact, there's this doctor in the UK, Dev Patel,
Okay.
and he started offering these exosome treatments at his clinic.
So they're just out there doing this?
It seems that way. He was originally using exosomes taken from human fat.
Human fat.
Yeah. But then he switched to ones from umbilical cord cells.
Hold on, so the source of these exosomes can change? Like, that's okay?
Well, that's the thing. Right now, there's no standardization, no real regulations around any of this.
So it's like, what? The Wild West of medicine?
Pretty much. And it gets even more complicated because the source of those exosomes, whether it's fat, umbilical cord blood, or something else,
Right.
it can really change what's inside them and potentially how they work.
So it's like, what you get could be completely different from what you expected.
Exactly. And we're not talking about some, clothing that doesn't fit right.
Right.
This is your health. We're talking about potentially serious consequences here.
Yeah, okay, I'm starting to see the issue now.
And speaking of consequences, one of the articles we read talks about this woman, Sarah.
Okay.
She got exosome injections for acne scars.
How did it go?
Well, she had 3 treatments. Not much improvement. And in the end, she just felt like it was all hype.
Oh, no.
She even said it felt like health marketing bullshit.
Wow. Strong words.
She was like, I don't even understand how they work. And unfortunately, her experience isn't unique.
So people are spending all this money, taking these risks.
And for a lot of them, it's just not working out the way they hoped.
It's like they're being sold a dream, but without the science to back it up.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that's just the efficacy part of it. We haven't even gotten into the safety concerns yet.
There are safety concerns, too.
But yeah. One of the biggest ones is the potential for immune reactions. Now, even though exosomes are naturally found in our bodies,
Right.
if you're injecting them from a different source, it could trigger your immune system.
Like an allergic reaction.
Exactly.
So even though it's considered natural, it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe.
Right. And it's important to remember, even things that seem totally harmless,
Yeah.
they can have unexpected consequences when they're put into your body,
Yeah.
especially in a concentrated form.
Wow. So there's a lot to consider here.
There really is. And some clinics are even using exosomes taken from animals.
Animals.
Yeah. Which brings up even more concerns about the potential for spreading diseases. It really is a buyer beware situation.
This all sounds pretty risky.
It can be,
Yeah.
and it feels like all these potential benefits that exosomes might have are being overshadowed by these very real risks.
I agree. It's concerning.
And that's why experts like Dr. Kang Cheng at Columbia University, they're urging people to be really cautious.
Yeah.
He says that we should think of exosomes as, and this is a quote, living drugs.
Living drugs.
Yeah, powerful tools that could do a lot of good.
Sure.
But also, they could do a lot of harm if they're not handled responsibly.
So it's not just about being skeptical, it's about being cautious.
Exactly.
We wouldn't just take any pill without knowing what it does, right?
Right. We need to have that same level of scrutiny when it comes to exosomes. We need to demand the same level of scientific rigor as we do with any other medical treatment.
That makes sense.
And that brings us to another important aspect of this whole exosome craze, the industry itself. It's a market that's growing incredibly fast.
Oh, wow.
But the question is it growing responsibly?
Good question.
And that's exactly what we'll be unpacking next time. We're going to take a closer look at the companies that are driving this boom,
Okay.
their marketing tactics, and all the ethical considerations that often get overlooked in this rush to cash in on this new trend.
This is fascinating. I can't wait to hear more.
It's a wild world out there. Stay tuned, because this deep dive is about to get even deeper.
So we just finished talking about the risks of exosome therapy. But, it's not all bad news. There's actually some really exciting research happening.
Oh?
Yeah, especially in diagnostics and targeted drug delivery.
Okay, so less about injecting them into people, more about using them for other things.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Exosomes are kind of like these tiny little treasure chests.
Treasure chests.
Yeah, packed with information about the cells they came from.
Nah.
And researchers are figuring out how to decode those messages and then how to use that information to our advantage.
So instead of using the exosomes themselves as like a treatment,
Right.
we're using them as clues to figure out what's happening inside our bodies.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of biomarkers comes in.
Biomarkers. Remind me what those are again.
They're specific molecules that can basically signal that there's a disease or a condition present.
Got it.
And exosomes, because they come from all these different cells throughout the body, they could act as a kind of liquid biopsy.
Liquid biopsy. What does that even mean?
Well, it means that we could get a snapshot of what's going on inside the body
Oh, wow.
at a cellular level, but without needing surgery or anything invasive.
So instead of a traditional biopsy,
Right.
where they have to take tissue, we could potentially get that same information from like a blood test.
Exactly. And there's already some promising research on this. Like, for instance, researchers have found exosomes in the blood of cancer patients.
Okay.
And these exosomes, they actually carry proteins that are linked to tumor growth.
So by analyzing what's inside those exosomes, doctors could potentially diagnose cancer earlier,
Yep.
even before someone has any symptoms.
Exactly.
That would be huge.
Early detection is key when it comes to treating cancer.
Absolutely.
And exosomes could completely change the game. And it's not just cancer either.
Really?
Researchers are looking at using exosomes as biomarkers for heart disease, Alzheimer's, all sorts of things.
So it's like having a window into the inner workings of our bodies.
Exactly. And it's not just diagnostics either.
Wait, there's more.
Researchers are also exploring ways to use exosomes to actually deliver drugs.
How would that work?
Well, picture this. You could use exosomes to deliver medication directly to the cells that need it.
Directly, like a targeted missile.
Exactly. And that means fewer side effects. And the medication would be much more effective.
So instead of flooding the whole body with drugs,
Right.
we could use exosomes to deliver a very precise dose right where it needs to go.
Precisely. And because our bodies already use exosomes to communicate between cells, they can actually overcome some of the barriers that traditional drug delivery methods face.
Which are?
Well, sometimes it's hard to get drugs to reach specific areas in the body,
That makes sense.
but exosomes can do that.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of how this is actually being done?
Yeah, there are. One really exciting area is in cancer treatment.
Okay.
They're using exosomes to deliver anti-cancer drugs directly to the tumor cells,
Wow.
which could potentially avoid a lot of the damage to healthy cells that happens with traditional chemotherapy.
That would be a huge improvement.
It would, and there are studies going on right now looking at using exosomes to deliver drugs for all kinds of things. Neurological diseases, autoimmune disorders, even infectious diseases.
This is truly groundbreaking. It sounds like exosomes could be the future of medicine.
It's possible. But it's important to remember that we're still very early in the research process.
Right.
It'll take a lot more work to make these potential applications a reality.
Of course. And I imagine there are ethical considerations too.
Absolutely. Like, one big question is, who's going to have access to these treatments? If they are so effective, will they be available to everyone?
That's a good point. We've seen this happen before with other medical advancements.
Right. Where only the wealthy can afford them. right?
Exactly.
And then there's the whole issue of informed consent.
Yeah, do patients really understand the risks?
Right. And the potential benefits. Do they have all the information they need to make an educated decision? Especially considering we're still learning so much about
It's
exosomes.
definitely something to think about.
It is. We need to be very careful. We can't let the excitement of this new technology make us forget about ethical development.
So it's like a balancing act
Mm.
between scientific progress and responsible development.
Exactly.
But it sounds like it's a balance we need to find
Yeah,
because the potential benefits are just too great to ignore.
I agree. So what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that people need to be informed.
Yes.
Don't just believe everything you read online or in those fancy ads. You've got to do your research, talk to your doctor, and really think critically about the information you're being given.
Like with any new health trend, a little bit of skepticism is a good thing.
Absolutely. And remember, this is a field that's constantly changing.
Right.
What we know today could be different tomorrow. So stay curious, stay informed, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. And keep in mind, the real potential of exosomes might not be in the quick fixes being promised today, but in the truly groundbreaking medical advancements that could come in the future. So, are you ready to shift gears a bit?
Sure.
Let's take a closer look at the industry itself. We'll talk about the companies, their marketing strategies, all the forces that are shaping this really interesting and fast-growing market.
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of exosomes.
It's been a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've talked about the science, the potential benefits, and the very real risks,
We've seen the excitement and the hype,
and the concerns about how this whole field is developing.
and now it's time to pull back the curtain a bit.
Exactly. We're going to take a look at the industry landscape itself.
The companies, the marketing tactics, and the ethical questions that are swirling around all of this.
Because, let's be honest, it's a bit of a Wild West out there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating paradox. You've got this incredible scientific discovery with the potential to really change medicine,
Right.
but at the same time, the market feels more like a gold rush than a careful, scientific process.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Uh.
And the MIT Technology Review article we've been talking about,
Yeah.
they really capture this dynamic.
Yeah, how so?
Well, they describe this industry that's just exploding. But it's happening without clear scientific evidence
Hmm.
and without robust regulations.
So basically, the market's way ahead of the science.
Pretty much. We've got companies popping up everywhere.
What kind of companies?
All sorts. Marketing exosomes for everything,
Yeah.
hair loss, Parkinson's, you name it.
Oh.
And they're making these big, bold claims.
Claims that may not be backed up by research.
Exactly. And the article points out that a lot of these companies are operating in this kind of gray area.
What do you mean?
Well, they're finding ways to get around the existing regulations. So, for instance, the FDA, they've been very clear. They haven't approved any exosome products for medical treatments.
Okay, so how are these companies getting away with it?
Well, a lot of them market their products as cosmetics.
Cosmetics.
Yeah. Or they'll say it's for research use only.
That's clever, but also kind of sneaky.
It is. And it brings up some serious ethical concerns.
Like what?
Well, are people really being told about the risks?
Right.
And who is making sure these products are safe and effective?
Those are great questions. Do we even have answers?
Honestly, no, not really. There's just not a lot of transparency or accountability in this industry right now.
So it's really up to the consumer to be careful.
Exactly. And remember, the source of the exosomes matters. How they're processed matters.
Right.
And the fact that there aren't any standardized procedures, that adds to the uncertainty.
So buyer beware.
Big time.
Mhm.
And here's the thing. With these treatments costing hundreds, even thousands of dollars,
Wow.
it's often the people who are most desperate, the ones who've tried everything else, who are most likely to fall for these marketing tactics.
That's heartbreaking. People just want to feel better.
I know, and that's why it's so important for everyone to be incredibly careful. Don't be fooled by a fancy website or some positive reviews.
What should people do instead?
Ask questions. Demand evidence. And remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Solid advice.
And if you're actually thinking about getting an exosome treatment, talk to your doctor first. Do your own research. And be wary of any clinic or company that's making big promises or downplaying the risks.
Absolutely. The potential of exosomes is huge, but we have to be realistic about where the science is right now and what the industry is like.
The real breakthroughs are probably going to come from careful research,
Yeah.
not from companies trying to make a quick buck.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this crazy world of exosomes, what's the key takeaway you want listeners to remember?
Stay curious, stay informed,
Right.
and approach this whole field with a healthy dose of skepticism,
Skepticism is good.
like with any area of science and medicine that's still developing.
Absolutely.
The potential is there, but so are the risks. And it's up to all of us to demand transparency and responsible practices from the people who are developing and marketing these potentially powerful tools.
I couldn't agree more. This has been a fascinating discussion. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And thank you all for listening to our deep dive into the world of exosomes. We hope this has given you the information and the tools you need to navigate this really complex and ever-changing landscape. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your health.